and taking on every aspect of fashion within one organisation, and in training women, refugee women, so that they're empowered to go out and work in the industry and make it better for everyone. So now we're taking that from that idea there. We're now going hugely, broadly, globally, and also at a consumer level. We're looking at the entire fashion output and looking at what each of us can do. Don't worry, whatever I'm saying, you just talk about what you want to talk about. This is what I imagine. What we're doing is making sure that when you leave here, you feel better equipped to make the choices when you're shopping. If you're looking at buying clothes, if you're looking at buying an item, you're going to come out of here better informed about what kind of questions you should be asking yourself, whether you should be giving yourself a hard time about it or not, whether you should be giving the manufacturers a hard time about it or not, but mainly looking at ways that we can easily live better and buy better in a fashion sense. So we are incredibly lucky to have two leaders in this field. Lucienne Tonti is an author, and she's for The Guardian, she's the correspondent, the sustainability editor. I'm going to make you editor. Yeah, why not? Yeah. And you also are award-winning author, and your book, Sundress, Natural Fibres and the Future of Fashion. So Lucienne has been a leader in this field for a long time. If there's someone in this area she doesn't know, they're probably faking it, okay? She's all over this whole area. Kit Willow is she's a fashion designer who started off making her own company and then got completely transformed by this idea about sustainability and where we were going wrong. And she started up Kit X, a women's wear label, which she's now just doing make to order, which makes you kind of like Gucci or something. I don't know, you're at that level, but probably higher, a bit better. And you're working with the Future from Waste Lab, so you're trying to influence global conversations about sustainable fashion. Look, I know I look like a fashion icon here, but let's give it up to the people who really know what they're talking about with sustainable fashion, Lucienne Tonti and Kit Willow. All right, over to you.
What an intro. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, what a pleasure to be here with all of you at the Eco Living Festival in Maroubra on what a beautiful day it is.
Hello. Yes.
So we thought we'd start by kind of throwing it over to you and asking who in the audience actually knows what kind of fibres are in their clothes.
Okay. Yes.
Well, mine's easy because it's linen, so
Okay.
hopefully
gold
that's
Well
star.
done. Gold star. Now linen is good, and we'll come to that. Everything that we're wearing and everything that we're eating and consuming out there comes from soil or oil, and we'll give you a little sort of some tips on what is good and what is not so good on that journey.
Yeah. Who else?
Me, yeah. I've got a linen shirt. I've got a cotton T-shirt on underneath, and I've got jeans on that are 99% cotton and 1% something else.
Elastane.
But I've had them for about 15 years, and I keep on repairing them. And all the
Gold
rest.
star.
So-
Brilliant.
We thought you might be all gold stars here. I had a feeling.
We don't want to shame anyone either, though. It is a learning
If you don't
experience.
know, please tell us. Do you know? No?
Do you know what's
No.
in yours? Do you want me to have a look? It's 100% recycled polyester.
Okay. Not bad.
Okay. I hope you've got good deodorant on.
Do you know what's in yours? No. Okay, I won't harass you.
I mean, I have to say, at any talk I've ever done, the majority of the audience, like there might be one out of 100, the majority do not know the composition of the clothes that they're wearing. They don't know if it's cotton or nylon or viscose or even what that means. And so sort of coming back to the everything we wear and everything we consume comes from soil or oil. And it's that journey from the earth, under the ground or on the ground, on the soil, that has the greatest impact on the planet's resources, on bees, on earthworms, on water, on the air that we breathe. What is it, 70%, 80%?
Yeah, the figure that we have at the moment, and they do change all the time, is that 70% of a garment's impact is determined by what's in it. So whether you've chosen to wear something made from recycled polyester or from cotton or from organic cotton, that is like your kind of first choice when we're talking about our clothes and we're thinking about them in terms of sustainability. So really when you're shopping, like number one thing is to be looking at that garment label and seeing what is the composition of the fibres. And we're going to give you a little bit of information about like what's better and what's worse. And the other thing that we haven't mentioned is the impact on the body as well. So like while we're talking about the impact on the planet, which is also very important, there's also an impact on our health when it comes to the materials that we're wearing. So there's really a lot to kind of think about. But number one is, what is the garment made from?
And, who knew that cotton, for instance, that's not organic, so organic cotton means no insecticides and pesticides have been sprayed on the cotton crop. Who knew that non-organic cotton actually kills bees and earthworms and leads to 20% of the world's water pollution? And the people who are spraying the chemicals get cancer, the majority under the age of 40. And so everything of the choices that we make as consumers at the point of sale online or at the market or in the shops actually determines, that decision is, has a far-reaching impact on nature and the world around us. And we've forgotten that connection. You sort of look at something and you think, oh, that looks great, which we're all for looking great in beautiful fashion. Don't worry about that. That's front and foremost. But it's the actual, it has an impact on animals and on everything and on our health, as Lucianne was saying.
And so we've started with cotton, and there's already a vision there, right? When we're talking about something that's grown in the soil, cotton grows like a flower. It's really beautiful if you've ever seen it. There was a moment recently when it was quite chic to have it in vases and florists were selling it. And it is a really beautiful plant. It comes straight off the plant ready to be spun, which is not the case for a lot of other fibres that we'll get to. But there's a big difference. When we're talking about conventional cotton, which is what's mostly grown in Australia, it takes a lot of synthetic pesticides and fertilizers to get that crop to grow, and they have a terrible impact on the soil. Versus when we grow cotton in organic or regenerative ways, no chemical fertilizers, no pesticides, you're working with the kind of natural biodiversity in the landscape to manage the insects, you're working with the health of the soil to make sure that the cotton is really productive every year. And that is actually what we're kind of hoping for across the board when we're buying our clothes. We want natural fibres that are grown in regenerative ways that can actually give back to the health of the landscape. So we're talking like improvement and clothes that can really actually regenerate and do all of these wonderful things, as opposed to clothes that are kind of killing the soil or coming from oil, which we'll get to in a minute too. Yes. Yeah.
And this has only been a phenomenon in the last sort of 40 years even, toxic material in the clothes that we wear. Pre that, it was regenerative. It was biodiversity, mixing cotton crops with apple orchards, with lettuce leaves, so that the insects ate each other and you didn't need to use toxic chemicals on the land.
Should we talk about linen?
Yes, let's talk about some positive ones. Organic cotton, tick, tick. Linen, tick. Go.
So the reason why we love linen is a bast fibre, and already in its natural state it grows without much intervention. So most of the linen that we're wearing in our clothes comes from Belgium and France, and those farmers have been growing it for a really long time. We're talking 400, 500 years. And it grows, it flowers, the fields turn completely blue right before you harvest it, and then it goes through this really amazing natural process. So it grows inside these really woody stalks, and you harvest it, and then then you lay it down in the fields and you let the weather actually soften the wood until you get to the inner fibre, and that's what we end up wearing. So that's what you're wearing in your beautiful jumpsuit today. And so it's a very natural process. It doesn't need chemicals. It doesn't, well, and sometimes it does use chemicals, but most of the time when you touch linen, the reason why it's rough is because that's the natural elements of the fibre that we're seeing. So it's irrigated with rainwater and, grown with the sun, and it's this extremely natural crop, which is why we like it so much.
Yes, and it doesn't attract insects, whereas cotton, the fluffy, beautiful cotton flower, insects love, which is why, it attracts. That's why insecticides has become such a big business to have that productivity.
Well, it's also the way it's grown, right? When you're growing conventional cotton, it's planted in these huge monocrops, and when we don't have enough biodiversity on a farm or in a landscape, that's when you start to see pests kind of emerge. That's when you see weeds emerge. They're a sign that it's not a healthy landscape that we're dealing with. But when you go to the linen fields or the flax fields in France and Belgium, they're very small. We're talking about little farms that have hedgerows growing on the outside. They've got pollinator strips, there's trees. You're not kind of just looking. I've been to some cotton farms where it really feels like you're on Mars. You can't see trees anywhere, and you can feel the chemicals in the air, and let me tell you, it is not a fun place to be.
Yes, and then also hemp. Hemp is like linen in that it does not attract insects, and it grows very quickly, and it regenerates the soil. So it actually...
Super fibre.
Yeah, super fibre. And like linen and cotton, it doesn't take a lot of energy to transform it from its plant state into a fibre. And hemp is a wonderful, another tick and an amazing fibre, and really very much, I think, should be the future fibre.
Yeah, for sure. It has really long tap roots, and what that means is that it can actually improve the health of the soil. And we've seen evidence that where it grows, where there's been lots of heavy chemical use, it will actually lift that out of the soil. So it's really phenomenal. And because it grows so tall, it grows 3 metres tall, it sequesters a lot of carbon as it's growing. It sequesters twice as much carbon as a forest planted over the same landscape, which is huge. And then because you harvest it and you grow it again, so I'm not a mathematician, but I think that's 4 times a forest.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And that means you don't need a lot of land because it's turning very quickly.
Yeah.
So less land, whereas cotton, obviously, huge amounts of land like Mars. Not
organic cotton.
No, we love organic cotton because it's mixed with other plants.
But you'll notice hemp and linen feel very similar on the body, and they also wear really beautifully. So that these kind of fibres, the more you wash them, they actually get stronger and smoother, and that's a real positive thing because a lot of our clothes now, you wash them once or twice and suddenly they're not looking new anymore. And really what we have with these 2 amazing fibres is this ability to give back to the land, and then also to have clothes that improve with age, which is just it feels like an anomaly now.
And
Huge
also
anomaly.
when you as you say, when you wash it, it gets softer, and it also breathes on your skin, which is why in summer it's so beautiful to wear linen. And hemp, because it breathes, unlike polyester, the oil fabric we'll come to. Silk, of course, we love silk. I've worn this piece silk skirt today, which means that we don't need to go that far, but there is an ethical debate in that there's silk.
No moths were killed in the making of this skirt.
The moth was able to fly from the cocoon, and this is the cocoon at the end after the moth has flown. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has this kind of slubby feel to it and quite organic. And Zendaya wore this skirt, this very one. I can't believe I can actually get into it. I'm on the last hole. I think she would have been on the first one. But, it's an example of the absolute pinnacle of ethical and sustainable fashion, piece silk, but silk in general.
Yeah. Well, silk is, I mean, I love protein fibers. They're one of my, I just think they wear so beautifully. You generally need to wash them less as well than cotton and other things, which is another plus because that's another impact area. But basically, silk starts out as a silkworm and they feed on the leaves of mulberry trees, or in India it's different trees, but most of the silk still comes from China and they're feeding on mulberry leaves there. Then they make these beautiful cocoons, and that is what the silk is. The silk is actually
They boil
strands
them?
of well, yeah.
They kill the.
We can talk the ethics of that. Well, let's get into it. You've already brought it up. So look,
interesting.
I'm not a vegan, so it doesn't bother me. But the silkworms do get boiled, and then the communities that farm them either put them back on the land as fertilizer, or feed them to animals, or eat them themselves. So in terms of like a kind of complete ethical supply chain,
cool.
that's all fine for me.
Yeah, me too.
But I understand if you're a vegan why you've got issues with it. That's fine. Also, then you can wear the pea silk.
Yeah.
But what's beautiful about silk is that the cocoon turns into a single long filament. So unlike linen or cotton, that kind of shorter fibers that have to be twisted together, silk is so smooth is because you're making a fabric out of these long filaments that are the product of nature, which is really incredible. So like they say that it is stronger than steel. And
very strong.
Yeah,
Which is why it's so fine.
yeah, exactly. And so it's a very precious thing. We know that we treasure garments made from silk. We take better care of them. We're more likely to hand them on to friends and family because it's a magical fiber. It's thousands of years old. The Chinese discovered it, I think it was it's like 5,000 years ago maybe, and they guarded the secrets of it very closely. And it was some Italian, of course it was the Italian monks that smuggled it out in their canes and took the secrets back to Italy. That's the reason why the rest of the world has silk. So, I mean,
It's
what a
very
magical
precious,
fibre.
Yeah, magical fibre.
Um,
And then viscose.
well, let's stay on the animal fibres.
Oh, animal,
just for a
okay,
second.
okay.
There's more protein fibres. Of course, we also love wool, cashmere, and vicuna, and all of the other kinds of wool that you've got, because animals on the landscape, of course, they can, when farmed industrially, cause enormous damage. But if you're farming animals regeneratively, they move moisture around, they fertilise the landscape. They're eating just like the biodiverse plants and things that are growing, and they really do incredible things. And then they produce these incredible fibres. So I'm wearing merino wool today, and it is, wool is...
Breeds.
Yeah, breeds.
No, it's just beautiful. I thought it was linen.
No, it's wool. But thank you. And they keep you warm, they thermoregulate, they're extremely versatile, elastic, they come with a waxy coating which makes them resistant to stains and smells, which is why you don't need to wash them so much. So if anybody here has ever worn a merino t-shirt, unlike a cotton one which you probably throw in the wash straight away, you can just hang it out in the sunshine, and that all, those are the kind of clothes that we need more of, that are easier to care for, less impact on the environment when we're caring for them, and that we treasure and keep for a long time.
And there's also a sort of a crepiness to wool, and so you don't need to combine it with polyester or elastane, because it has this beautiful natural stretch and give, which is why it lends itself so beautifully to tailoring and jackets. And pure wool, I have done many pure wool jackets in my time, but they are few and far between. You'll notice a pure wool tailored jacket or coat is extremely expensive, but it's a lifelong garment, and we'll come to that at the end. Who knows what viscose is from?
Trees. Yes, trees, correct.
Good. Yeah, so viscose and bamboo, all the cellulose fibres, Tencel, and a lot of them say, it's sustainable bamboo, sustainable viscose, and most people think it is sustainable because that is how it's marketed.
Yeah.
Model,
Lyocell, rayon,
they're all the wood fibres.
we call them man-made cellulosics.
And their wood is harsh.
Wood is harsh, right?
Yeah. So to go from that to a softy, silky feel is a long process, and Lucianne will get into it. I know she's dying to break out.
Well, it makes me so angry when we market cutting down trees as something that's sustainable, because obviously for the long term, the health of the planet, what's the most important thing is getting all of that carbon back into the soil and keeping all of the natural carbon sinks that already exist, alive and safe. And the stat is, that makes me sick, 300 million trees are cut down every year to make viscose, and almost half come from ancient and endangered forests. And so when we think about how fast fashion cycles are turning now and how quickly you're told to buy this cheap dress, wear it once, throw it away, I mean, it is really sickening to think that we might be cutting down, a beautiful ancient tree with all of its wisdom that's very important for the rest of the forest, and not to mention, its root systems and the mycelium and everything else that's going on. So really, it's this is where we have to exercise our own critical thinking and not necessarily buy into the marketing of something being told that this is a sustainable material just because it's got a bunch of certifications that have been paid for, when really we can think, what actually do we need in to fight climate change? We need forests, right? First and foremost, we need to keep our natural ecosystems alive. And then secondly, it makes crappy clothes. Viscose is not a good fabric because obviously, unlike all of these other fabrics that we just told you about that come out of nature ready to be worn and they're soft and they're supple, you have to dissolve a tree in sulfuric acid to turn it into a viscose, solution that then becomes a material. And so, they are marginally better than polyester, nylon, etc., because at least they're still made of cellulose, so they do have some thermoregulating properties. But the worst part about it is, in the worst viscose practices, and some of them are better than others, 70% of the tree is wasted. 70%.
Only 30% of the tree is used. So of that beautiful ancient tree that's cut down,
it just makes my
only
stomach split.
30% goes to the dress that you're wearing. And to make it soft and feel like silk, because it's kind of a faux silk viscose, the toxic chemicals, the sulfuric acid and all the chemicals used go out into waterways, polluting sea and rivers and causing, fish to die, and also leprosy and
it's very
health
harmful
conditions
to the factory workers too.
Yeah. So we are not a big fan of viscose.
Well,
viscose is from trees. So just spread the word at the barbecue and to your friends, because word of mouth is the most powerful form of change and storytelling.
Talking about deforestation is a really great way to make friends.
At the barbecue, you can say to your auntie, "Oh, friend, did you know that viscose is from trees? Do you love trees? Let's not cut that down, that tree. Let's say no to viscose."
Yeah. Well, the worst part is too, because what they need to make it is the cellulose. There's cellulose in agricultural waste, food waste, hemp. We could make it from hemp, which would be incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's alternatives.
Yes.
Okay. So you can tell we're getting to the dark part.
Oil.
Do you want to do it? You can go.
Okay. Plastic. Who loves plastic in the audience? Anyone?
Correct.
No? Okay.
A+ student.
Plastic fashion is polyester and nylon. Okay, so anything with polyester and nylon, what is that? Is that from the soil? No, it's not. It's from the oil. And as the oil industry is starting to, be compromised because of the transition to low carbon economy, the polyester and nylon, the oil industries are pushing this fibre big time. It's very cheap. That is the problem to buy. The planet price of the fabric is very high. So it's from oil. It releases nitrous oxide, which is 300 times more toxic than carbon dioxide, to turn it into a fibre. It's not like, oh God, I love that polyester dress. It feels so good. It doesn't. I love that silk dress. It feels so good. Yes. I love that linen. It feels so good. It breathes. Yes. Polyester, plastic fashion, when we wear it, it sticks to you like you'd be, wearing a plastic bag. When we wash it, it releases microplastics into the waterways. So all of our washing machines, the filament has not been fine enough to capture the microplastics. So they end up going into the ocean. And what happens is the marine life eat it, and it goes into, like dolphins, baby dolphins, when they're born and sucking their mother's milk, stop growing because there's so much micro plastics in the mother's milk that baby dolphins can't grow. So it's like dolphin-friendly fashion. Don't buy nylon or polyester, virgin nylon or polyester. It's good to see you had recycled.
Well, let's talk about recycled though,
Yeah.
because
It's the lesser of two evils.
It's the lesser of two evils,
Yeah.
and it is good to be using waste to make things. But the issue with recycled nylon and recycled polyester is that most of the time, nearly all of the time, it is coming from plastic bottles. And so what we have with, I mean, look, recycling is, I probably don't need to tell anybody here that a little bit of a myth, but at least theoretically, in the plastic supply chain, that system is closed loop. You can turn plastic bottles back into bottles much more easily than you can turn plastic bottles into polyester, which then cannot be recycled again as the current technology stands. So really what we want is, if you have to wear something made from polyester, to get the recycled option or get a second-hand option, like if you need a waterproof jacket or, you know, bathers or whatever it is that we don't have a cellulose solution for. But, you know, ideally, and definitely just never from virgin, because right now polyester makes up 52% of the fibre basket, which means that over half of all of the fibres produced in the world are plastic.
I think it's 60, isn't it? That
No,
changing markets?
Well,
a
there's a
lot.
few different stats. So it's definitely over half, but there's another stat that says it's in, because so many of our clothes are made from blends, that it's in 80% of all garments. And so you notice it when you go shopping and you're like, now that you know, looking at the garment label first, that often these things are, you know, wool blended with polyester, wool nylon blend. And the biggest issue with a blended fabric that we have, in addition to the fact that it's compromised the quality of the beautiful natural material by adding in plastic, is that we can't recycle those. So if you're thinking for circularity, you want to be buying 100% of one fibre type. Well, firstly, you want to be buying just the most durable garment that you're going to keep and wear and cherish and, you know, take care of and fix and mend. And then second, 100% of the same material type. If you want to be able to have it recycled eventually at some point when that technology catches up with where we are.
And we'll come to waste and end of life in a minute. When I started, I sent this to Lucianne, when I started my first label, Willow, in 2004, the natural fibre, of all the fibres in the world at that point, the natural fibre market was half. Cotton was half, then the other natural fibres were about 20%, and polyester nylon, plastic fashion, was the same as cotton. So they were the same, and then so the natural fibre market was bigger than the polyester market. Now it's so that trajectory has gone like this with polyester and nylon to 2004, and then it went like this, and now it's gone like that. So the largest portion, I think it was 58 to 60%, is polyester nylon. It is growing at an exponential rate because it is so cheap. So fashion designers, i.e. myself, when you're trying to make margin and make money out of the garments, the natural fibres are going up and up in price as climate change, weather patterns are, you know, changing. Where it was drought is now flooding, where it was flood is now drought. So it's harder to grow fibre on soil as food and fibre, both from soil. So the prices are going up. And so what designers are doing, and I understand they're trying to, you know, sustain their businesses, they are mixing the polyester and nylon in, or the fabric suppliers are, to try and keep that fabric price target, or they're going straight to polyester and nylon. So it's a price-driven demand, not a quality-driven demand.
And it is the only reason why we have fast fashion and ultra fast fashion is because of polyester and nylon. Because we cannot produce natural fibres at a rate and a pace and as cheaply as those companies need their materials to be able to churn out that fashion that is, you cannot, I mean, I think it's barely wearable what those people are producing. They're producing future landfill.
Yeah, and now that's what we're coming to. So we are discarding 10,000 kilograms of fashion every 10 minutes in Australia. Yep, we are now, per capita, the largest discarder of fashion in the world. We were second to the US. Now we are the biggest.
I mean, there's a number of reasons why that's happening here, but one of the big ones is because we don't have enough trade regulation. So we are becoming a dumping ground for the cheapest fashion in the world. So what we've seen France and the European Union do is legislate to, block fast fashion, to regulate and minimise the kind of impacts of the way that it's marketed to people. We've seen Trump, and I'm sure no one here is a fan, at an eco-living festival, but we've seen Trump pass these de minimis laws which tax like small parcels coming into the US. That will have a huge impact on their ability to import ultra-fast fashion. And so then where do you go? We're in close proximity to Asia. We're wealthy. We are the logical place for them to turn to be pushing these clothes. And of course, the stats show that they're already doing it. But what's worse now is that we're also falling behind on our modern slavery regulations, which means we're even more primed, not just to be getting the cheap, crappy fashion, but to also be getting the fashion that's been made without taking care of people properly. And so we really need to be paying, you vote with your dollar, and make sure that you're, supporting local designers and really, avoiding those kind of big players at all costs, and educating the people around you to be avoiding them too. So we're talking Shein, Temu, H&M, Zara, Boohoo, I don't know, Forever
Princess
21,
Polly, yeah.
Anyone that's selling you a dress or a top or a T-shirt for, $20 and under, or even in the case of Kmart, $5 and under, you've got to be asking, how can their farmer and the garment worker and everybody along that supply chain be paid fairly for that price point?
Yeah, and so, and it's hard to say stop buying, because, we love fashion and empowers you, it makes you feel better. But the thing is, when you look at the cost per wear, so you see a Shein dress, I don't even know how much they are, $5?
Yeah, some of them are. Yeah.
Okay,
$5.
so you see a $5 Shein dress and it looks all, pretty and great online, and you go, oh, that's really cheap, $5, so cheap, great. Buy it, get it home, try it on. Oh, it's not so good, it's itchy, and it kind of, it doesn't feel great on, but hey, I bought it for that event or that, lunch or whatever, so I'll wear it. You wear it, you don't feel that good in it, so what do you do? What do you do with it? You can't resell it. You can't return it. You throw it away. There is no way. Where does it go? That dress, where does it go? It goes into the bin. It goes into landfill. Okay? In landfill, it's made of polyester and nylon, plastic. Does plastic break down in earth and fertilise the soil? No. Does plastic break down in sea and rivers? No. Plastic strangles fish in sea and rivers. And plastic, when mixed with other fibres in landfill, releases methane gases, accelerating climate change. And it doesn't break down. It festers. And, there are mounds of fashion in Ghana, and I want Lucianne to talk because she knows all about this. Go.
So even if you don't throw it in the bin and you think, I'm going to donate it, someone in a charity store will want it. Right now, there's an overwhelming amount of donations being made. And so what gets kept on shore is a very small amount, and I cannot remember the figure, but I think it's around 10%. And then it gets filtered through tiers. So it goes offshore, it gets sorted again. Someone, in the Southeast Asia will keep some of it. Eventually, the end of the line is usually somewhere in Africa. And what's happening, I have friends that work in the Kantamanto markets in Ghana, and what they're seeing there is so many clothes being dumped there every week, or sold technically, because it's like a trading program. And when they estimate that about 40% of every bale that arrives in Ghana is waste. So they'll open it and they'll go, okay, half of this is trash. So not only have we bought it sight unseen and gone into debt to own this, now we can't even use half of it. And so what happens is, as it kind of filters through their system, is it ends up on the beaches. And you've probably seen the photos of the beaches on the news, but the story that stuck with me the most is the way the textiles, they form this kind of like super tentacle. So they're kind of the clothes are getting washed out and like brought back in by the waves, and they turn into this super big, like thick rope, and that keeps happening and keeps getting more and more clothes attached to it, and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier until eventually it sinks to the bottom of the ocean. And so a lot of the work when they're trying to clean up those beaches is them walking along the shoreline. I mean, can you imagine doing that, at this beautiful beach, whichever direction that it's in here, and trying to cut up this huge tentacle made of, I've seen one, they brought one to one of the global sustainability conferences, and it's just like a mess of bras and, tracksuit pants and half, t-shirts and like all these kind of things. And of course it's covered in sand, so it's really messy, hard work. And they're walking along the beach and they're trying to cut these things so they can kind of all move them off the beach together to stop them from sinking to the bottom of the ocean. So we're really... we have our work cut out for us in terms of, how we're going to move forward with this industry. And really the most important thing to understand is that reducing the amount that you purchase and only investing in high quality things is like the best thing that you can do, because right now less than 1% of textiles are getting recycled. And that figure I don't think is going to improve anytime soon, because it's so expensive to recycle things. The issue isn't the science, the issue is the cost. And that's why we know only less than 10% of plastics also get recycled. And, we've really got to start understanding that it is like this beginning point. As the consumer, it's the point of purchase. As the brand, it's how much you produce. And really trying to educate ourselves to only really buy what we love and what we will wear. And that takes a little bit of reflection. It's not an exact art. You've really got to look at your clothes and your wardrobe and think really hard about what are the pieces that I absolutely love, what are the pieces that I go back to again and again, and what is it about them that I can take forward into my next purchase to make sure that it's going to be another kind of forever garment.
And as a designer, constantly I'm asking that question, like, how many times does the world need this dress, or does the world need that skirt or that jacket, and would I go to it, high frequency wear it all the time? But also coming back to kind of that $5 dress in Shein, again, you think it's cheap and it's one wear. It's one wear, right? So if you look at cost per wear, and I know it's very hard and expensive to buy good clothes, but then go resale. She's got it resale.
Figure eight, yeah.
Yeah, figure eight. Resale, linen jumpsuit, go to vintage shops, go to markets, buy resale, hunt for the treasure and try it on. And if you can't afford the new linen jumpsuit, go the resale. And then the cost per wear, how much was that?
It was $70 at U-Turn in Marrickville, and I can happily say this is the third wear and I haven't washed it yet.
Okay.
So
washing's okay though, because it's linen, but that to create and produce that now as a designer, I know it would probably have to be around $500 to $600. So if you can't buy the virgin one, go the resale, 70, 3 wears, 70, 22.
I'll get 100 more, don't
She'll
worry.
get 100 wears. You're below $5 a wear, better than Shein, and good for the planet. And end of life, you could actually shred it if it has holes all over it by the time you've worn it 150,000 times. And then you could return it to the garden. You could put it on the garden and the soil, and nature will take it back. We haven't got to that.
Well, no, I think we're
we
getting
don't. We don't
wrapped
have
up,
time. But you could return it to soil, and nature will take it and eat it, and it will fertilise the soil. And that is the beauty about natural fibres and thinking about the circularity. So I hope you can spread the word and share our stories.
And our take home on what to look for when we go shopping. Where do we start? Natural fibres at the tag. And also, if you can't afford it because cost is a massive issue, recycled, up-purposed, resale, secondhand. I'm the op shop queen, so I've been doing it for years, and it's always worked for me. Would you give a big, warm thank you to Kit and, oh my God, Luciane, sorry. There was so much information in that, some of it quite disheartening, some of it quite uplifting, and it's really great to hear all of the work that's being done to investigate where we should be spending our dollar and the kind of decisions we should be making.